Hi everyone, this is Meenakshi Ramesh from tapyourwaytohealing.com. Today I have a guest for today's video recording. She's a very good friend, and also you will get to know more about her once I read her bio. She's Gowri Kuthanur, and I'm going to share a little bit about Gowri. Gowri Kuthanur is a passionate advocate and facilitator of person-centered practices with over a decade of experience supporting neurodiverse youth and adults across California. Known for blending heart and structure, she specializes in helping families and individuals navigate the Self Determination Program, shortly called as SDP, and craft support plans that truly reflect their voices. As a parent of a neurodiverse daughter, she has over 2 decades of lived experience. Gowri leads Inclusive World. Inclusive World is a nonprofit organization helping empower the differently abled population. She helps their efforts towards adopting person centered thinking and in the development and implementation of building one page profiles for all our members and volunteers. Gowri believes that person centered approaches and asset based teaching have the power to unlock our members' potential by focusing on their interest, abilities, and talents. She's passionate about education and believes access to free flowing knowledge can change and empower all. After spending 15 years as a software and systems engineer in the SF Bay Area, Gowri has been engrossed in the education field for the last 12 years as a learning coach, instructional aide for her own daughter. Gowri keeps her passion for learning strong by continuing education through Coursera courses. She enjoys listening to music, reading, cooking, and hiking with her family and friends. Her background is rooted in community work, inclusive education, and a deep belief that everyone deserves to be seen, not for their challenges, but for their potential. Gauri's approach is as thoughtful as it is empowering. She meets people where they are, listens with care, and translates their stories into practical, future focused action. Whether she is collaborating with disciplinary teams or presenting to families and professionals, Gauri brings clarity, creativity, and calm to every space she is in. When she is not in planning mode, you will find her curating community joy, asking insightful questions, or quietly redefining what inclusive leadership can look like. Thank you, Gauri, for taking the time and sharing your insights and knowledge about person centered planning. It's so exciting to speak to you once again. Gauri was in my channel. I don't know if it was last year or year before last with her daughter Pallavi Kuthanur. Pallavi is a writer. She's a writer, programmer, and she's also attended community college, and she has a certificate in accounting. So welcome, Gauri. So to
Thank
begin with, I want you to you're welcome. I want you to share a little bit about Inclusive World and their vision and mission, which is a nonprofit that you are a part of. So, if you can share a little bit about them, it'll be great.
thank you, Radha. Thank you for your really generous and warm introduction. And also, I'm so happy to be back here on your channel. It's so wonderful. And all the throughout the month, you enlighten us by bringing people who have lived experience and have some expertise and knowledge to share, which we can all learn from and continue to learn from every day. So, thank you so much for the service that you're doing. Um, As you mentioned, I'm been working with Inclusive World. It's a nonprofit based in the Bay Area. It was founded in 2012. It started as a small project to help youth 13 and above with vocational skills, primarily in the arts and crafts area. It started in the arts and crafts area. But now they have expanded the classes, which expanded from arts and crafts, small business, products to vocational skills like, Microsoft Excel, programming, um, or programming in Scratch, Python, website development, mobile app development, a whole range of classes. As our members are growing with the organizations, and the offerings are also growing. Inclusive world is rooted in person-centered practices, and person-centered practices, which is what we are going to talk about today. I'll mention that, it sees each person as who they are, as a uniquely gifted. And, when you look at somebody as a whole person in the framework of their gifts and assets that they can bring to the table, rather than their diagnosis, you see them differently, and it changes. The words that you use to describe the person changes, and words can reframe thinking and thought processes, and that will reframe your approach to the person. And because of that approach, you are able to connect with the person and bring out their strength and their whatever they already have, the gifts that they have. You build those strengths, when a capacity building approach, and then you can unlock their potential. And they themselves are sometimes surprised by their ability, and that is self fulfilling, or self affirming, because their self esteem goes up, and then they are able to try new and different challenging things. So inclusive world has been built on that approach, and my daughter is an example of the um, effect that kind of approach has. And somebody who was lost in her own world, to coming out and being able to go on to take a challenging um, uh, classes in community college, be in a different environment and learn. It has been a great accomplishment. She still continues to have challenges, and it's not like everything can be solved with person-centered thinking or person-centered approaches, but it is a tool. And I think it's the only way we should really look at a person, because when you look at a human um, in the light of their abilities, and you help them become aware of what they can do and not focus on what they cannot do. Many a time, our traditionally, the way services have been given to people who are clients of the regional center in California, which is the government organization through which people with who are differently able get services. The way the model has been based on the medical model, where you have a diagnosis, and so you define a problem, and then we go and try to fix it. From the fix it model, when you take a person-centered approach, you're looking at them as, okay, this is the person. Now, this is the ability that they have, and we go ahead and see how we can build on that. So that approach is the person-centered approach, looking at the person. Now, if I can talk a little bit more into go forward, that at a high level, that's what it is. But how do we go about doing that? Person-centered thinking as a concept framework has been around for many years, and it was um, probably from I would say from the beginning of time, because any relationship, it's not unique to just people with disabilities, but for people with disabilities or people who don't have a voice, many a time, who are not able to express what they want, because uh, they do have different ways of communicating. For them, when you take a person-centered approach, you're able to unlock different alternate means of communicating with them, engaging with them, and bringing out what they have and help them share that with the world. So then you see that person in their true capacity, and not as what is external, what is limiting them. So the way we look at it is, it's based on a set of tools called person-centered thinking tools, and it was defined as a concept about in the late 70s by Michael Small and John O'Brien. And the way they approached it was, there were people who were in residences, and they were very, very sad, because I think that time 50 years ago, uh, people were people who had a lot of support needs were in residential homes, because there was not enough infrastructure or ability to keep people at home. So they were sent to homes, and they were all very sad. Most of them were very sad, and uh, the They went and spoke to the person and tried to find out what are some things that they are interested in, and tried to center their activities around that, because they didn't have choice, no freedom. There was a set list of activities that were there, which was presented to everybody, and not everybody was interested in the same things. So just by choosing, giving them choice, you could see that their perspective was changing, and they came up with this framework, which is very, really, when you look at it, that should be the way we approach any relationship. And we can see that the power of adopting that, changes not only your relationship with people who you support. So this was developed for caregivers, so that they could, use these approaches to support the people that they are serving. But even, with your own friend or a teacher, or your neurotypical child, or older person. So now person-centered approaches have become, I think, are becoming more and more integrated in different areas, even in healthcare, managed care. We try to do person-centered approaches. So they are really very empowering methodologies to design individuals realize their fullest potential. Okay, so we look at what is the person's preference, what are their strengths, and what are their goals, ensuring that the person's voice remains center to whatever decision or planning that we do. One of the If you see, when we are in kindergarten, I think most kindergartners, they go through uh, uh, this kind of a discussion with their teacher, like, what do you like, what are some things that you like, what are some things that you don't like, and they come up with like a beautiful document. But many a time that doesn't carry forward, and I think in kindergarten we have one that's like that I think is very much like a one-page description. So one-page description is like a snapshot of a person that describes a person in a setting. So it has, like, what are some things that when you approach somebody with, hey, I really admire you, Meenakshi, and you said, that these are the things, the way you introduced me, you're putting uh, me in a positive frame. So even your listeners who don't know me think, have gotten to know me, and a lot of positive things about me, about my interest in cooking, hiking, right? So those are some things that you would capture in a one-page description, so that when somebody new is coming to take care of a person who is differently able, they look at that, say, oh yeah, this is common, this is something that I have common with this person, I can connect with the person. So you capture that. So it has like three must have sections. One is like what you admire about the person, then what is this person's likes and dislikes, and then how do they want to be supported. So the likes and dislikes could be like, things that they want to have on hand with them at all times, or maybe they have certain ways of doing things that have to be honored. And then how do they want to be supported could be like, there are certain challenges that one person might have, like probably somebody is very scared of dogs. So how do you support them when we are around dogs? Because those are some things that we can capture in that. So you try to, everybody has challenges, we all have challenges, we all use different tools to manage that. For people who are differently able, others will have to support them to access those tools. So we capture all that. So this one page description or one page profile is like an advocacy tool that they can carry with them, and we can change it so that it helps them in different settings. When you go to the doctor's office, you can put some pertinent information there so the doctor can make use of it. I Most of us are scared of needles, and especially, we can say, oh, she's scared of needles, but you can give her a sticker, or maybe you can give her a soft toy. There are certain things that we can give them to distract them. We have it on hand, it makes it easier for them. Or the doctor or nurse can connect with them, based on that. And in inclusive world, I'm connecting some of the questions that you asked, because at inclusive world, one of the ways in which we support our members is we develop a one-page description. And this one-page description is also one of the tools developed by I forgot to mention the name of the organization, the Learning Community for Person-Centered Practices. If any listener wants to go and look it up, right? They actually offer classes in person-centered thinking and person-centered planning. They give classes. So the learning community, they have come up with a set of tools which somebody who wants to adopt a person-centered approach can make use of. And one-page description is one of the tools. Another tool is, how do you develop a one-page description? For that, they have a tool called Discovery tool. The Discovery tool is really a conversation that we are having with a person. And for people who cannot speak, it will be like with what we call their circle of support. The circle of support are people, if it's a child, the child cannot express everything. So child can express some things using words they may not be able to express, but through their gestures. There are other ways in which we communicate. So all that is communication. And along with them, their parents parents and other people who know the child well can speak for them. Similarly, for people who have differences and who cannot advocate for themselves, their parents or people who know them well, or even teachers, experts in the field, can help them articulate about themselves and how they need to be supported. So mostly, the most important thing is difference, I would say, is like traditionally in our schools, our plan, even though the IEP, IPP, all of them have the word individual in it, how much of the individual is actually in the plan is questionable, or it can be right. Like, I think people who know, yeah. So so it is not fully individualized. So with person-centered thinking, you make sure that the person is always at the center. So the person is the expert about themselves, about the individual. The person is the expert about the I part of it. And then you have in the planning part, how do you support them? For that, you have experts in different areas who can support them. And we take their help and their knowledge and use them. So it's a collaborative effort, because it's families, caregivers, professionals, and communities all have to work together. But it's guided by the individual's vision for their life. And when you can say, this is how I want to be supported, and you're clearly saying, so you're actually advocating that, okay, this is how I want. So that way you ensure that the supports and resources that you get or you're given are specifically meet your unique needs and aspirations and dreams. And if person-centered thinking approaches always emphasizes strengths over limitations. So that way it facilitates personal growth and then gives them autonomy, about agency and autonomy. And that way it gives them meaningful inclusion in their community life.
Right. Very, very nicely, put forth and explained, Gowri. So the one-page profile is generated through a questionnaire, right? So is it like a very specific questionnaire or a very general questionnaire? How is the one-page profile, created for the individuals who are differently able?
Yeah. So the one-page profile, I think now it used to be called one-page profile, but people are moving towards one-page description. So I might use that interchangeably. It's the same thing. Okay. So I'm choosing to use one-page description now. One-page description, the questions that are asked are really, who are you? What do you like? What do you dislike? Right? And but if I keep asking that, it's going to be like, what do you like? Suddenly, if you ask, even I'll be stumped. What do I like? So the way you do it is you through it through conversation. It's called a discovery conversation, because we are hoping that you have some, hey, I like to have coffee in the morning. Do you like to have coffee in the morning, Radha, or do you like to have tea?
I like to have coffee.
You like to have coffee. Okay. What kind of coffee do you like? Do you like have a specific flavor? Dark roast, medium roast?
I like Indian coffee and I like black coffee both. I like both coffees, yeah.
Okay. So Indian coffee that's a way of making coffee, right?
Yes.
So that's the way, it's not just I like coffee. I would say Meenakshi likes, sorry, I called you rather.
No
Meenakshi,
worries.
sorry. Meenakshi likes Indian coffee. That's called Indian filter coffee, and she likes it hot. She likes it dark, right? So those are some reasons. Would you like to have it as soon as you wake up, or do you like to wait for some time and have it? So those are some things that your preferences that, yeah,
Right.
which I think Your family might know because they have been
Right.
with you for a while.
Yeah.
So those are some things that we can capture and say. And the way we start our day, those tiny preferences can really set the tone for the day sometimes, right, for
Right.
us.
Yeah.
So those are some, so those things we get to it through conversation called discovery conversation, which is
Conversation.
really like the conversation that we have, but you're
Okay.
really paying attention to everything the person is saying,
Mm-hmm.
using their words and also using their gestures. Sometimes uh, our kids, sometimes their mouth might be saying some words, but their body might be communicating something different. So we have to pay attention to the behavior. And so basically, you are trying to understand what the person likes, uh, what are their what are their strengths, that you find, because uh, you might ask people who know the person well to share their input, because there are teachers who have been teaching them for years who might have
Yeah.
a great
Right.
insight about that. So we
Right.
try to put all that, and depending on the setting, for example, inclusive world, we have both weekend as well as weekday classes. So the weekend classes are usually 1.5 hours, one particular topic, like let's say scratch programming. So the information that we put in the one page description will be what they can use. And we have a new in inclusive world, we have a neurotypical buddy supporting the neurodiverse individual.
Neurodiverse.
Yeah. So but when they meet the person, they know they should know how, they may not know how to interact with the person. So you put how do you like to communicate? So that's one thing, what is your communication
Yeah.
style?
Appreciate style.
And then they are working together. Sometimes some things you may do hand over hand. Do you like to be touched? I don't like to be touched, or and how do you like information to be presented to you? Do you like to have an even tone, or you don't mind fluctuations? Some people are, so all those things you
Things
capture.
in
Those
sure.
are the ways. So that's those all those would go into the section about how do you want to be supported, right? And then
Right.
you capture all their interests so that people can have conversation,
Sessions with
conversation with
them.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes. That's what
basically,
makes
yeah,
life so worth living. Is to
yes,
make those connections through those conversations. Yes. That's
absolutely. Those
amazing.
those
Yeah.
connections, right? And
Mm.
it's not only for conversation, even for teaching concepts. If
Except yeah.
somebody is interested in travel, we might any kind of knowledge that you want to impart can be centered around the theme of travel
Theme
and
travel. Yeah.
places, so that that gets the person excited.
But
And
yeah.
they because and also they feel, oh yeah, this person is trying to connect with me, they are
Connect
also
with me.
sharing about
Mm.
travel. And so you feel that they are they really want to connect with you, and they're trying to understand what how excited you are about, and they're getting excited. It's
Mm.
basically, when you build upon somebody's strengths,
Mm.
you
Right.
you it is meaningful to them. Anytime
Mm.
something is
Mm.
meaningful to you, only then you
Mm.
want to do that, right? So yeah.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah.
in one of the another important concept in person centered approach is what is important to the person versus what is important to
For
and for.
both. For
Important
yeah.
to are the things that makes you happy, fulfilled, excited,
Mm-hmm.
contented.
Mm.
What is important for is usually things that you have to do to remain healthy,
Mm.
safe.
Mm.
So sometimes anything, if you have somebody needs to do something that is important for them, you have to
Mm.
somehow connect it to what is important to them. That's
Them.
why. So
Yeah.
it has to be something that they enjoy. So that's what gives them meaning, right? So
Right. Right.
that is the balancing act that person centered thinking
Yeah.
will help with. For example, working out and exercise. If you say, "Oh, I have to exercise every day," people may not. Some people like it, so
Mm.
it's different.
Mm.
For some people, it's like for me, sometimes okay, I want to go for a walk,
For work.
but I know pushing. Oh, that's all I want to do. Like
Mm.
so I have to say, "Hey, what a beautiful day it is! I want to enjoy the sun."
Mm.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
getting sun, and so you try
Mm.
to combine many things which can bring
Things in
meaning to that
for
activity and do
activity.
it right.
Right, right, right. Yeah, beautifully said, Gauri. I was reading a review by a student who has used the one page description. I think it was Neil or Neil Dingra, I think, on the Inclusive World website, and he said he was able to be very successful sharing that with his instructors, teachers, professors in the college at San Jose State University. I saw that on Inclusive World website. So from what you're saying, once the one page description is created for the individual, it can be used across settings, like it can be shared with school, educational institutions, with your doctors, with your caregivers, and it can be used across so it's just like, and also it evolves. It's
Yes,
not just like one page, you
very,
create this and it's set for life. It's not like that. It keeps
very true,
evolving and
very
you can
true.
keep adding, so
Yeah.
which is also very very good. And I also feel people, the more people start using it, maybe through the discovery conversations, through the interactions that they have with the individual, they may also become a circle of support eventually, right? For the
Absolutely.
one
Yeah.
page description to evolve and to be things to be added to the profile. Yeah.
Yes, very correctly said that, how one page description can be used across different settings. It is, and it evolves. So you could
Hmm.
hit upon the key word
Hmm.
evolves.
Yeah.
The one page description can be used in different settings, and for different settings some things might change, like how do you want
Hmm.
to be supported, or maybe
Hmm.
we won't share everything about the likes and dislikes in
Hmm.
school versus
Hmm.
when you're meeting with your friend or for a weekend
Friends.
activity. So you can change it, and
Hmm.
so for different settings you can have different
Share
one
it.
page description,
Spreads.
right? But what people like and admire you might remain the
Hmm.
same because it's
Same.
about you,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
um
Yes.
it evolves because we are all human beings. As human beings we are evolving, so
Hmm.
our
Right.
description should also evolve, right?
Evolve.
So
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
it should evolve, and it's a living document. It's a living
Document.
document, that's what it is.
Document.
Yeah. And
Right.
how it's living, it's made richer because,
Mm-hmm.
just like you said, the people who are supporting the circle of
Mm.
support
Mm.
uh, give information
Mm.
back, and that
Yeah.
gets added. Like,
Right.
uh,
Right.
if I take a specific example,
Mm-hmm.
some of the buddies, the young kids
Mm.
who actually,
Mm.
sometimes it
Mm.
can be younger than the
Mm.
individual itself, right?
Mm.
Because the
Mm.
individuals are there for as long.
Mm.
Sometimes young kids come and they are the first year, they have some suggestions. Say, hey, I tried this with this person and
Mm.
this worked, like when say, for one individual, they said, use the same words over and over
Mm.
again. They said that,
Mm.
and then that
Mm.
helps to reinforce. For
Right.
another kid, it was a young kid who said, don't use the same words twice,
Mm.
use it in different ways, because
Mm.
so it is for, that is individualized support, right, that you're
Right.
giving.
Right.
And
Right.
that helps, and then they said, okay, for, and don't say good job all the time to this person.
Mm.
For another person you have to give good job all the time.
All the time.
Another
Yeah.
one, they said, don't say good job, because if you say
Mm.
good job, that means they feel they've done, they don't want to do
Yeah.
anything more beyond that.
Right.
But as
Right.
for another person, they wanted that good job or thumbs up or
Mm.
something like
Mm.
that,
Mm.
um
Mm.
so those are all might seem like small things,
Mm.
but it makes a huge difference to the
Differential.
person, a huge
Mm.
difference to the person, right?
Mhm.
And that, maybe that person needs that a good job or thumbs up now.
Mm.
2 years later, they may no longer need it because
Needed. Yeah.
they've grown and matured.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
the more people use it and the more people
Mm-hmm.
share feedback, because
Mm-hmm.
the we are making the information in the one page description richer based
Mm-hmm.
on the experience that we have had, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
that's and that process is called, that process again, uh, person centered thinking. And the tools, they are very simple tools, but they actually thought about the whole life cycle.
Mm.
So they have,
Right.
there are tools, very basically it's like an analytical tool that use, called what is working, what is not working.
It's not
So
working. Yeah.
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 So what is
Yeah.
working is like, you look at what are all the things that we are doing right now that is
Mm.
helping the person and stay
Mm.
motivated and growing. What is
Mm.
not working is what is not working from the person's perspective, not from our
Mm.
perspective, but from the person's
Mm.
perspective. But
Mm.
all the people who are supporting will
Mm.
contribute to that. So, when all people contributed, you're actually analyzing the problem in 360
Mm.
degree view,
Yeah.
with a view to actually helping the person. Not
Mm.
anytime something we identify as not working
Mm.
is not a
Mm.
criticism, but how
Mm.
can we change? How can we
Mm.
adapt and make it better? That
Right.
so and and the person who's supporting also feels
Mm.
listened to, because
Mm.
we are hearing their perspective,
Mm.
that this is not working.
Mm-hmm.
So they feel empowered that they can
Mm.
contribute
Mm.
uh, to how the person can be supported. So
Right.
eventually
Right.
the decision maker is the person. so the person feels supported. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a it's actually a positive self-affirming approach which improves everybody's self-esteem. So I
Right.
think, and that process is called of updating. It's called person-centered review. So
Review. Okay.
somebody who's in business or other areas, some of these concepts they are using it even in business and other areas. But
Right.
the main, I would say, the main difference that I see is it's just the words that we use, right? Then, and we one of the things that we use only simple words. We try not to use big words because many people who need these supports, they won't understand the IEP, IPP assessments and all are written with words which use big words. But now, even that, it's I'm very happy to say that in California, I think from this year they have changed the way they write the documents and it's becoming more person centered. So that is a great thing, that's being adopted also. Yeah. If
Right.
I'm
Right.
talking way too much than what you
No, no, no.
wanted
This is all really
to
good
share,
stuff.
okay? So then,
So, and my next question to you is, we are all we are all very aware and familiar with the SDP process right now. So, I would like you to talk a little bit about how the person-centered plan transfers and how it aids in how it transfers into implementing the goals and planning, even writing the goals and mm, devising a plan for the individual through the self determination program. If you can
okay.
talk a
So
little bit, it'll be great.
okay. So we were talking about the one-page description, which is
Mm-hmm.
actually a snapshot of the person's license.
Mm-hmm.
It's like in one page, in a condensed form. So in one setting for a few hours, how we can support them. Whereas when you take person-centered planning, you look at all areas of the person's life, which is what we may have to look at when we go to the regional center. So the regional center, I mean, especially when we are young, we have parents taking care of people with differences, different abilities. But once they become an adult, of course, as parents, we will continue to take care of them, but the legal responsibility is no longer ours, and it becomes that of the regional center. So to inform the regional center about this person so that they can be taken care of the best way they can,
Right.
it is through a person-centered plan. So it looks at all different areas of the person's life, like what are the things that they do for their social life, emotional life, and medical needs. Medical needs, I think in the traditionally also we have looked at it. From the traditional to SDP, when people move, one of the things that is different is I think the way the goals are written. So that's where the person-centered plan will be written. If you think of the discovery conversation extending to all areas of your life,
Basically,
that is what the person-centered plan would be.
that.
But just like if you do it for one setting versus on. So this is my goal. Okay, so we come understand about how their life has been till this point, and then and the person-centered planning can be done for an infant to all the way to the end of life. So that is something you can do. And of course, for until as for children, the parents and the immediate circle of support will have a higher voice in sharing what are the
Right.
goals and other inputs about the person. But and once a person is maybe 12, 13, I think we even before that, we would involve them, but we would involve them more, in the planning, because only by giving children and youth the ability to participate and in giving them agency in making their own decisions, will
Sense.
they be able to make choices and have more autonomy as they grow older. Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
so you develop a plan which has information about them, all their likes and dislikes, and then the goals. The goals would be, okay, these are my goals for what do you want to do? What are some areas that you want to excel in, or what do you want to grow in for the next year? You have long-term goals, and then you have goals that you have for the immediate next year. So we capture the long-term goals and say these are the person's hopes and dreams. Many a time our differently able youth are never asked, what's your dream? Do you want to be many kids will say, I want to be an astronaut or a pilot. And people might just take it and may not pay attention to it. But if you listen
Right.
deeply and you find out that why are they interested in it, maybe it's because they're interested in stars, or maybe the it's the uniform. There are things that you delve deeper, you find
Right.
what.
Yeah.
So you have to listen, ask, guess, and then listen again. That's the process.
Right.
That's main.
Process,
That's
yeah.
all basically. Yeah. So you come up with a person-centered plan which has different elements, which is like, you all the areas of your life. Then you come up with goals, short-term goals. The short-term goals are probably goals that you want to do the next year or so. And then you take those, and then you might say, okay, to achieve those goals, so this is your vision of what you want to achieve. So what are some things that are obstacles that are preventing you from reaching there? So identify the obstacles, and then how can we overcome those obstacles or barriers? That will be through some supports that we might need.
Right.
So we identify those supports and present it to the
Mm.
regional centers. The person-centered plan is the basis for the self-determination program, because it's giving you a voice to say, this is how I want to direct my life, self-direction, self-direction.
Right.
So that informs the individual program plan, which is the contract through which you get services from the regional center. So the SD, whatever goals you have identified in the person-centered plan will inform the goals in the individual program plan, which is the contract which provides services for you. And then um, those goals, you those still it's only a document and written things. It's still up to how you implement it that you get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And again,
What?
since we talked about it evolves, so we can always go back and change it. It keeps changing, and we
Yes.
write the goals accordingly, and mainly finding the resources. The goals is one thing. I don't think from my understanding, it's also finding the resources and the support
Yes.
to
Yes.
help, to make sure that the goals are able to be implemented, right?
Implemented and
To be
achieved. Yeah.
able to reach, resources to support so that the goals can be achieved. Yeah, eventually. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess when you spoke about resources, yeah. So the resources are traditionally, I think we have been able to get services only through vendor providers in the traditional system. But in self-determination program, any uh, any vendor who is out in the community who is serving neurotypical population can be used by people who are in the self-determination program. This is actually attractive because there might be many people who are ready to teach us, maybe with some additional support, maybe one-to-one
Right.
support, you can do it, but they
Right.
have the knowledge. So we are able to make use of that. So, and of course, when I said, it's only a document and resources, this thing, even whether it's traditional or SDP, it's up to us to make sure that we use it wisely and implement it, right? So that effort doesn't go away, but it gives you the ability to initiate the conversation and pursue it, right? So that
Right.
happens. Yeah. So it's able
Right.
to
Right. Bridge.
bridge the gap that we have had so far, that
Right.
we have resources in the community, but not everybody can become a vendor of the regional center. So now we
Right.
are able to make use of those resources. Yeah.
Resources. Yeah, I think that's a very, very valid point and useful information for many parents as they are navigating the system,
Yeah.
especially for parents who are starting new in this, in navigating this journey. I think this will be very helpful. So, any final thoughts, anything, comments, anything that you would like to share? It can be about inclusive world. It can be about your work experience. Doing the SDP, helping families. Empowering families. It can be anything, or about the person-centered plan. Please share. Feel free to share, Gauri.
Thanks, Meenakshi. Person-centered planning has been transformed. Person-centered approaches, right? Adopting that has been very transformational for me in different areas of my life. With my own daughter, definitely, and also even with my neurotypical daughter. I have an older daughter who's neurotypical, even with her, or even with my spouse. Being able to take some time to respond and understand, and trying to put myself in his shoes, even more than I was much more than what I was capable of before. So it is transformative, that taking that approach. That is one thing definitely I want to acknowledge here. The other thing is, as we grow older, we are all worried about the future and what the future holds for our children. And when I say children, I'm talking about all children, but especially the ones who need supports. For them, I feel one of the best gifts that you can leave for them is a person-centered care or support plan. It's like the best life insurance policy that you can leave for them, because you know um, we all the knowledge that we have about them, that we've accumulated over the years, and which we do, there are certain things that only we know. Those things we cannot, uh, when we are there, we can try to teach some people, but what about the people who come after that, who after them? So hopefully this document, the doc that we come up with, is very meaning, is fully tries to encapsulate all the things that we have learned, and how our near and dear ones can be supported or want to be supported. If we can capture that, that is one of the best insurance policies that we can leave for them. Yes, because then they can, whoever is taking on that task, at least have a tool, some help. We are giving them some a tool to approach that. So I think that is one thing I feel. And one more thing is, not a person-centered plan is not only for people who are transitioning to a self-determination program. When you're in traditional model, I think they're coming up with a person-centered plan, person-centered care plan for your loved one, is something that will be very useful and helpful. And one more thing, if I want to add to that, is, like I said, even from an infant to end of life, we can do that. So I think it's important that we all make sure that we continue to, you know, continue to, of course, we are all constantly changing, even us, right? We are constantly changing. I feel it's important for us to keep acknowledging and writing these things down. We can even help having like a one-page description of how I want to be supported if something happens to me and I'm not able to use my voice. For ourselves, it might be good something to keep, that might be a good thing to keep, I think, for ourselves too, if we suddenly have to go to the hospital or something like that, we could do. Yeah,
Right.
I
I can actually see the energy, the vibe, that as you were talking, this is obviously very, very close to your heart, Gauri. And a service to, they say, service to humanity is service to God. And I'm so glad that you're doing this, and helping families reach, and the individuals who are differently able reach their fullest potential. This work really makes your heart sing. I can clearly see that. So thank you again for
thank you.
sharing all the insights, your wisdom, and your knowledge with our audience, with my audience. And if you can share me any useful links about person-centered plan, and anything, any contact information about how people can reach out to you if they need support. I'll probably add it to the description in my YouTube channel when I post the video. And thank you again for your time. Thank you so much, Gauri. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Meenakshi. And thank you so much for giving me the time to share about this. Like I acknowledged at the beginning, I think your channel has a wealth of information about the healing modalities that you present to us, which we all, I mean, at least people close to you, we have been implementing it. In addition,
Thank
I
you.
think uh, the series that you do in this month of April for Autism Acceptance Month, there there have been many new things that I have learned in the last year, last couple of years from this channel. So I think continue to do this. It's really wonderful. We all are grateful for that. Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you. Thank you, Gauri. Thank you. Stop.